Welcome back to another edition of Smart Driving Cars. We appreciate you taking the time with us. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alain.
Hey, good morning, Fred.
Good morning. This past week was a busy one. You had the Transportation Research Board banquet in Washington. Before that, CES in Las Vegas. While there, you and our friend Ken Pyle from Vioti were able to spend a few minutes with another friend, NVIDIA VP of Automotive, Danny Shapiro. Let's take a look.
Reimagining the car design process really from start to finish, the car experience of buying a car all the way to manufacturing, and then of course the car itself. Well, that's some of the stuff that was just talked about. Alan, you sat in on the panel. Of course, Danny was one of the panelists. Why don't you start off and kind of give us your thoughts, Alan, and bring in Danny into the conversation?
Well, yes, I thought it was a very interesting discussion, really stating in terms of where the innovation can be now in the whole creation of vehicles, really starting from the design process all the way through the manufacturing and their eventual sale in the showroom or over the web. And Danny was part of the discussion. And Danny, why don't you just make some of your points as to, that you made so very well.
Well, I think it's exciting how the whole auto industry is embracing digitalization. We're taking what used to be sort of offline processes, physical processes, and being able to move them into the cloud essentially, and be able to remote into the cloud, to design the cars, do it all digitally, to be able to take those designs, bring in generative AI to modify or enhance those designs, be able to take that design into engineering and figure out, well, how do you build this car, then take it into the whole factory of the future. Again, a digital twin of the actual factory, which you can lay out in our Omniverse or other simulation platforms, lay out the factory so it's optimized, make sure that the robots moving around and swinging don't hit each other, and really do that planning up front so that when you build the factory and run the factory, it goes smoothly. And then you take all that same data and you can then use that for the marketing and sales of the car as well. So virtual reality could be part of that experience, just all 100% digital commercials that can be customized. You configure the car and then you see it drive in your town, you know, and so it really is a fun way. All the way even to, you know, sales and support. That same digital model can be used to train the service people or help you do your own maintenance on the vehicle. So it's a continuous workflow, all based on a single digital model of that vehicle. And everything that's inside, even the software that's running in the car, can be simulated and experienced.
It's amazing, the virtualization, should we call it the gaming of the,
it's gaming technology.
It's gaming.
It is absolutely.
It is amazing.
Being able to take ray tracing technology from the movies, from gaming, to create realistic visuals. Now, in real time, it used to be you'd have to render this stuff overnight. Now you can interact with it, and so I can customize my vehicle, the look and feel, the design, add options to it. It really helps the automakers too. They end up selling more full-featured cars when you and I can actually say, oh, I want that lane keeping feature, or I want the advanced cruise control, or the autopilot, whatever it may be. You can actually experience that and see what it's like with and without that option or that software purchase before you even buy the car.
It's just amazing, and it just allows one to be able to explore, to try things. Some things will turn out to be, hey, we should stay away from that one, or to be able to go out and be able to determine how do we deal with situations in which it's really challenging. I mean, one of the things that wasn't mentioned, and I know why it wasn't mentioned, is, you know, I like to claim that the safety aspect of cars is more due to our misbehavior in using them than them not really being designed well or not being able to perform well. And to me, the being able to address this misbehavior problem and keep me from misbehaving, try to keep me under some sort of.
That's going to be hard, Alan.
I know that one is hard, but in fact, to me, that's where some real opportunities.
I think driver monitoring, occupant monitoring is a big part now of AI. The sensors inside the car deliver convenience applications, but also a lot of safety applications, and merging the AI in the car and outside. So the car recognizes there's something out there that potentially is a hazard, and can recognize that you're not paying attention, and the car can kind of step in then, or alert you, or do more than just generic. And so if you're focused and paying attention, that's great. If you're not, it's going to let you know that you have work to do. Now, once the car's driving itself, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but let's not go to there. I mean, let's just because that, to me, that's a whole different business.
For sure.
That is, the giving rides to people is a different business than me giving myself a ride. And I think we're focused on me or you giving yourself a ride, and let's focus on that. But I was appreciative in the conversation that everyone agreed that when one is dealing with safety, people should be cooperating. We know we have antitrust situations, and we know that we need to avoid collusion and all those things. But to me, the safety situation, come on, either Congress or somebody needs to make sure it allows us all to cooperate on safety, because you can do the scenarios.
That's exactly it.
But we don't know which scenarios
we want to make sure that everyone is working from that same database of scenarios. Are you testing, the stop signs, the stoplights, the yields, the lane change, it goes on and on and on.
A body being under your car. I mean, look at what happened in San Francisco.
Right.
Nobody knew.
Right.
Nobody
so I think
thought.
this is going to continue to evolve, but I think the key thing is to build out this exhaustive list, and it will continue to evolve, of what that vehicle needs to be able to do to sort of get that stamp of approval to have an autopilot on the highway or an urban autopilot or whatever.
And to share that among all the folks that are working on this, because in the end, safety is the responsibility of all of us combined, because if one of us isn't, then of course everybody rolls their eyes about everybody else.
I think this is where simulation really comes into play.
Absolutely.
Is being able to have this exhaustive test, use whatever simulator you want, whether it's ours or somebody else's, but the key thing is everyone needs to pass that very high bar to put their cars on.
Absolutely, because to do that in reality, I mean, first of all, how many stunt drivers, whatever, and in the end, in the movies, it's all virtual reality anyway. In the movies, they don't really do that stuff, do they? I mean, and some of the things they do, I guess not.
One of the other themes, and you kind of touched upon this with the sharing of data and so forth, but in the panel, connectivity seemed to be an important thing for over-the-air updates, but also APIs, having the ability to connect between different types of software and stuff from different manufacturers. I don't know if you care to comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, connectivity is table stakes. Of course, every car will be connected, so that's not a big deal. Increasing bandwidth is great. I think ideally we could benefit, of course, from vehicle to infrastructure, vehicle to vehicle. I think it's going to be a long way before that really is super useful, because it kind of has to be everywhere before you're not going to rely on it. One thing I think that would be really helpful, though, is when you have autonomous vehicles, if things that are normally part of the roadway, so it could be construction, it could be emergency vehicles, if those anomalies are broadcasting for those AVs, I think that would really be helpful. Ultimately, sure, we may get to everyone, but that's going to need to be mandated for vehicle infrastructure. It's a huge cost. And even communities, if one community has it and the next community doesn't, it really doesn't benefit that much. I think the other key thing, though, is talking about these scenarios. If we create this system whereby everyone is working towards that same standard, if there are these common APIs that people could then use to ingest that data and use that, I think that would be really helpful.
I think one of the other comments you made is that the collection of all the data by each of the OEMs or cars, they're probably not going to share all the data. I sort of agree with you, but if they trip over some safety aspects in collecting those data, I think it would behoove everybody to say, I mean, they should, out of just the goodness of their hearts, say, look, and I think they do. And I think they do.
If you look at technologies like seatbelts, like airbags, all of that, it quickly becomes so. If there is techniques, if there's situations, other safety features, I think we'll quickly see that adopted.
Yeah, and I think that's all very good. That, again, we shouldn't be competing on safety we compete, we differentiate ourselves on a lot of other things, but safety can't be one of them. So, thanks a lot, and congratulations on
So that was a great conversation, and of course it just touches the surface really of the complexity of it. But Danny, it's always great to have you on this, and Alan, your leadership and driving us forward.
Yeah, just trying, and congratulations on all the events and the contributions. I mean, really,
we're just really excited about the ways now AI, generative AI, is really helping to improve all these different workflows and increase safety.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And AI was being touted everywhere at CES. We want to thank Ken Pyle at Viotti and, of course, Danny Shapiro once again. Alan, turning to the latest edition of the Smart Driving Cars newsletter, you have sent a letter to the New York Times that was sparked by a January 10th Times article by Brian Chen, headlined, "The Tech That Needs Fixing in 2024 and What Got Fixed Last Year." And I think you think the article needed some fixing.
Yes, because of course, if in fact we're looking to fix things, we should be focusing on root causes of what needs fixing. And unfortunately, the way he happened to put the challenges of driverless coming out of San Francisco suggests that if one approaches it from his perspective, one's not going to be fixing the right thing. And so I just calling for a little correction as to what happened, what was the root cause, and what needs fixing. And so that's just my perspective. Yes, what happened was a tragic incident. And as we've been saying with respect to basically everything, we don't know what we don't know. And when things happen, it's really important that we understand what happened and state it correctly so that we can learn from that and make it so it doesn't happen again. As we've seen lately, Boeing's coming into the same situation with their 737 MAX 9s. All of a sudden, a whole panel blew out. Okay. So, if they're going to fix it, they better, approach it from, hey, what happened? What really happened? As opposed to the way it was presented in this, year in review, what got fixed and what needs fixing. My goodness, the way it was stated was just, wrong. I mean, it was almost orthogonal to what happened. So anyway, sending a little correction in there to the New York Times. Who knows if they'll publish it? Doesn't matter. We're putting it in Smart Driving Cars. At least those who read Smart Driving Cars will at least see what at least I think happened from my watching this somewhat closely from a distance.
One of the stories that came out of the Boeing incident was, and I guess Apple could make hay of this. I don't know if you saw this. Somebody's iPhone got sucked out of the plane and survived.
Yeah,
the screen did not crack falling from 16,000 feet.
What a drop test, with all technology, it all goes through drop tests. And, I've dropped my phone. Maybe, in fact, we don't need all this covering. We should see what kind of, covering it had to see it survive. Yes, hey, we should learn from these things. Okay, we should learn because Mother Nature does stuff to us that we didn't necessarily observe or understand, and all of a sudden when we finally do experience it, yes, it's tragic, but the silver lining in a tragedy is for us to learn and fix, so that the probability that it happens again is made even smaller.
Well, more on CES in the newsletter, Alan. You linked to Ken Pyle's video of the Las Vegas Loop, which you've taken a ride in before, the underground electric vehicle network Elon Musk's Boring Company has built. And I
Yes,
guess,
and well, I hadn't taken a ride, but we did meet with last year with the president of the division of the company that's doing the Las Vegas Loop, and had a very nice meeting with him, but never got a chance to ride it. And
oh, you
so
didn't ride. I thought you
so
did.
I no, I didn't get a chance to. I mean, come on. So at least this year, boom, and they're at the from the station, which is at the surface at the Western Convention Center, or the West Wing of the Convention Center, and we had nice rides all around, and it's pretty impressive. What I, of course, like most about it is the way they configured the pull-in stations for people to get in and get out. Our concept with respect to move-style deployments of driverless autonomous taxis would be kiosks, and those are the kind of pull-ins that of course one would envision with this, and relatively efficient, where people getting in, getting out. Of course, there's a driver in each one of the vehicles, although I would imagine it would be trivial for full self-driving to handle the driving of those vehicles safely. But again, the reason one wants an attendant and a driver on board, at least initially, is so that the riders, the customers, the users are comfortable with the situation, and become acclimated and trusting of the technology. And so I guess, I don't know if they're testing full self-driving in there yet or not. I'm sure they will be. But I would suspect that the objective of the whole system is to get it so that it's bigger than the loop that they currently have, which they are building and expanding to, I don't know, what is 26 different stations, or let's call them kiosks, what we would call kiosks, and really provided this as a mobility system for Las Vegas. And the other aspect of it is sort of, harkens back to, actually what it is it's a personal rapid transit system, or, what we always envisioned with the, exclusive guideway mobility system, station to station, kiosk to kiosk. That's really what they're building there. Of course, when we were discussing this, 50 years ago, and for 50 years was elevated guideways. Here, putting them underground, if you can drill the tubes inexpensively enough, of course you would prefer to be underground than above ground. I mean, what sort of killed PRT, or why it never went anywhere, was because, my goodness, you're going to put elevated guideways, and you have to go and to who knows how many city planning meetings to get approvals, and then when people realize, my goodness, these things are going to be going by my bedroom window, no way, Jose. And so, the chances of being able to build these things would be small. But underground, my goodness, it's almost freewheeling, wherever you want to go. Unfortunately, it gets to be expensive. But very interesting, and really appreciated the rides and so on. And it's going to be good for Las Vegas. Actually, perfect, in my view, for Las Vegas.
Sure. Kia got some attention at CES with what they called a PBV, a platform beyond vehicle, which is like a flexible chassis system. They could put different kinds of electric vehicle types together using this system. And you had some thoughts on that. What should they build?
I wish Tesla would do that. I mean, if Tesla did that and threw full self-driving on there, we could move forward.
Now, Hertz has decided to sell about a third of its electric vehicles. That's 20,000, something like that, because of depreciation was higher than expected. There wasn't enough demand. It's not clear exactly what happened here, but they've reduced the fleet of electric vehicles dramatically, mostly Teslas, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe they had mostly Teslas too, and it's hard to really get a real reaction. One of the claims is that part of the challenge was that their expenses for repairs, collisions, was greater than expected. I don't know. It seems to me every time I rent a car, they want me to, if something happens to that car, it's my responsibility, and therefore I buy this extra insurance. And maybe they didn't price the extra insurance right, or maybe that extra insurance, that upsell that they do to me every time I rent a car, wasn't making as much money for them if I rented an EV as opposed to if I rent a ICE. So I'm not. Maybe that's a little cynical on my part, but yeah. And then the other piece of it, and why there might be more crashes with respect to renters renting EVs than ICEs. Fred, you now drive an EV. It's different than driving an ICE, right?
It is. It takes some getting used to. So if you are renting one and just expected to get behind the wheel without anybody teaching you a little bit about it or having any experience at all, it could cause problems, especially if you're using the regenerative braking, which is typically what you would do in an EV. It's one pedal driving, and that takes a little bit of getting used to.
Yeah, I would suspect, and I know the one time that I was offered an EV, I turned it down. I said, no, I don't want to. I don't want to go through the learning curve of driving this thing while I'm really trying to get someplace. Okay, maybe when you buy one out of the showroom or have one delivered by Tesla, you're not anxious to get someplace, and therefore you give yourself a chance to become acclimated with the vehicle. Whereas every time I rent a vehicle, at least maybe it's my bad behavior, I'm trying to get someplace. I want to go, and I even find that renting a vehicle different than what I own. Where in the heck? Where is the gear shift? Okay, where's a slot to put in the? I mean, just drive. Thank goodness there's Uber and Lyft in places. I mean, not
I think
renting many cars
renting
anymore.
A vehicle,
Huh?
renting a vehicle, people are usually in a hurry. In fact, there used to be a guy running through an airport in a TV commercial, if I
Oh
named
yeah.
OJ. If you recall.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I think that's my password for everything. Oh.
Alan, you gave this Skwheel One electric skis a mention in the newsletter. They're a French startup, and I've actually interviewed them for Techstination.
Yeah. So yes, I sent them your way if you hadn't, but yes. When did you interview them? Recently or
before CES? Yes.
before CES? Yeah. They made a somewhat of a big splash out there because, of course, one of the guys had it on and he was like zooming around the floor with darn things. Somewhat interesting, and I'd point out in the newsletter, maybe not necessarily for individuals, but in certain work applications, some people put in a lot of steps in warehouses, in delivering mail, in police. And I would think that these things are at least comparable to some of the other sort of small mobile devices that people use. And it was I don't know. I found it quite
You
interesting.
didn't try it out, did you?
No, I mean, yeah, I may be done trying stuff. I'm just trying to make it to the next day, and although maybe.
You gave Rabbit a mention as well, which is billed as a pocket-sized AI companion. I mean, the phrase AI was everywhere. I don't know how much real AI was anywhere.
Everywhere. I mean, it is, everything's AI, and I don't think it exists, but that's another story. What? Yeah, this little pocket companion is supposed to manage your apps and, get you to use the right app and the right thing. Although I need another device that manages the apps on my phone or on my laptop. Why isn't it just another app that's on my phone? But maybe I must be missing something.
Well, years after Google's failed attempts, smart glasses were everywhere too. And you have some comments about Apple's Vision Pro headset, an expensive piece of AR VR hardware that arrives next month. Apple wasn't there, of course. They're never there.
They're never there. Yeah.
Top of mind. These are, I think, $3,500 or so. Or
is that what the price is? Yeah, I guess, and it must be good or something like that. You want to put it on, and maybe this will cause people to not want to travel anymore. They'll just sit there with their glasses on, with their Apple headset on in their basements. Although, folks, as I point out in the newsletter, folks have been trying to do this for a long time, and I linked to a video from 1966. This is not a new concept. And it's yet to be mainstreamed. Sure, some people have these, and some people wear I guess, I don't know, but it's the penetration is low.
at that price, that's for sure. So,
and at that
we'll
price, I guess, I don't know. I mean, maybe.
LG, meanwhile, made CES headlines with a transparent OLED TV, and you're linking to a video here. What did this look like, Alan?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because of course what you can do is I guess it's transparent, or they just have a camera system that takes a view of whatever is behind it and displays it in the front. I mean, it's really whatever. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. And it does give you sort of a three-dimensional view of the image that is being presented on the screen. And I guess for at least 10, 20 years of going to CES, I always check out the TV stuff. And of course, go back to kind of the original. I think it was Bill Gates, when he built his mansion, said he was going to put flat screens instead of actual art on the walls. And that's when flat screens were like $17,000 a piece. And of course, only Bill Gates could do that. And what's happened? My goodness. Now 96 inches are available, at the consumer level, and the OLEDs, of course, because you can fold them. There's all sorts of things that people are now doing. Not only the foldable phone, but now there's the laptops that's a Rollatop. That actually, you open up the screen, and then the screen goes up and unveils even more a bigger screen area than just the top. There are all these things that people are doing because now the imaging element is flexible, and so you can morph it, and of course something I didn't put in the e-letter is the globe that has been built out there in Las Vegas. I don't know. It's impressive. It's impressive because of the dynamic character and that you can put on both the outside and the inside, and it's now you have a spherical display. Who would have thought? First it was flat, then now it's curved, and then bendable, and now spherical. Okay, great.
Lots of fun stuff always at CES, and we should say LG makes some pretty good TVs overall, transparent or not, right? So.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's those Samsung too, but those I don't know.
Yep.
Anyway, I've been happy with
and we want to remind people again about the new book coming out. How fast are we going to be able to buy this, Alan? We're still waiting here.
I don't know. I mean, I went to the site and it said January 26th. So I don't know when they're going to start shipping. And they have a sale on the paperback version. I mean, I've yet to see one. Whatever. But we have seen all of the proofs of it, and it is available for production. And what are you doing with it, Fred?
Well, we're doing the audio book. We've started work on that, so hopefully we'll have that soon as well.
And it will be Fred reading it, not me. I mean, oh my goodness! At least it'll be a good voice. Oh,
again, it's the real case for driverless mobility. Alain Kornhauser and Michael Senna put a lot of work into this over quite some time.
Yeah, and I think
in a changing landscape, which isn't easy.
Yeah, it's a changing landscape, and it continues to amaze us that we may be the only two people with that perspective. I don't know. It's certainly the New York Times didn't appreciate that perspective with respect to with the achievement that was made in San Francisco of actually providing rides to people without smoke and mirrors. And providing those driverless rides, and it's hopefully we can move beyond San Francisco.
Well, before we wrap up, Alan, maybe some final thoughts about CES and your impressions, what you got to see there.
Yeah, and with CES, it is consumer electronics, and there are a lot of new things in consumer electronics, as we've already discussed. With respect to the driverless car part of the technology, there was relatively little, but there was an enormous amount on AI. And if you really look at AI as the one of the big places that progress is being made is doing the driving function. So all of the enormous interest in improving the algorithms for AI, improving the compute environment in which to train these entities and training processes, and in that whole entourage it's going to help a number of applications. And one of the real applications that it's going to help is in improving driving. And I think we're going to end up seeing that show up not only in advanced driver assistance systems, which in fact will really improve the safety of the cars that we continue to buy and drive, but will naturally lead to being able to provide mobility, give people rides without requiring a driver, and be able to achieve the affordability aspects that are associated with not having to pay someone to wait around for you, get to you, take you. Those things end up making it expensive. I mean, in my recent travels, took a number of Uber and Lyft rides, and those are not inexpensive. For me, which I'm traveling on an expense account, of course, who cares? Tip the driver 20%, of course. All right, for somebody who's out there, trying to get to work and trying to get to work on time, or trying to get from work, or doing some necessary things, as we've known for the past 100+ years, a chauffeur is not an inexpensive means of getting a ride, and that hasn't changed. But the way to change that is the opportunity to have now, technology, sensors, actuators, computers, and software to do it instead of a human. And that's still the big opportunity. And it's a shame that the Waymo and Cruise haven't focused on the affordability piece. And not only the affordability piece, is the flexibility piece. It's still the challenge of, if you want to get a ride from a taxi or an Uber or Lyft, that driver, not only you want to go from A to B at time T, you got to find somebody who is willing to get to you and take you from A to B at time T. And sometimes that's not so easy for whatever reasons seem to be around, and in the end, it's almost impossible to make affordable. Why? Because the person who's doing it deserves to earn a living. And so if that person deserves to earn a living, your affordability opportunity is enormously limited. If you want someone to make you an individual meal, that chef is expensive. If you're willing to reheat something that's come off of an assembly line to put it all together, quite different.
Very different. Well, again, that takes us right back to the book, which is what we were talking about a moment ago, The Real Case for Driverless Mobility. Look for it soon.
Yeah, and again, it's just a shame that in the things that you read, nobody's pointing this out. I mean, does anybody really think somebody is going to do driverless trucking unless there is a real financial advantage to for a company to do that? In other words, it is substantially more affordable for you to do something than to have a driver. And safety's not going to make it in the marketplace. I mean, that's why one did steam engines. Why? Because they did the work of who knows how many people. Whatever.
Well, once again, you can find us at smartdrivingcar.com. Also on Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Amazon, wherever you turn to for podcasts. You can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with Alain Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching. Please continue to stay safe.
And have a great week.